are the Sports Hit List. I am your host, Carl Coulange, and today we're here to talk about the NFL offseason. A lot of people always say the NFL never really officially has an offseason. Kenny always says that to me all the time, and this year I think I've seen that. But before we get into that, let's introduce the cast. Mike Phillips, second time on the show, man.
Sir,
if you haven't seen Mike Phillips on the show, check all the other previous episodes. Thanks for being here. I was about to call him Mike Miller for a second, right?
It's all right, he's my boy.
They're both Jets fans, so
shout out Mike Miller. That's right.
Kenny Irby, all right. Khalid,
What's going on,
welcome.
brother?
Anthony, you're back?
Yes.
All right.
Mike Miller inspired both times. But this for you, my dog. I got
All
you.
right.
Don't put that on him.
Got you.
All right, guys. So we're here to talk about the NFL offseason. And as I said in my opening statement, Kenny is always saying, Carl, there is really no NFL offseason. There's always something going on. And this year I've seen that. I think the NFL offseason with so many transactions has kind of put baseball on the back burner or put the NBA on the back burner. Even the NCAA tournament on the back burner. So, guys, we'll start with Mike Phillips. What have you seen so far? What is the biggest thing that's happened in the NFL offseason, in your opinion?
I've seen a lot of moves by a lot of teams to either get themselves close to the salary cap or get under the salary cap. One big trade that I saw was the Sam Bradford for Nick Foles, which I do not understand at all. I was looking at stats, and I won't pull out some stats like other people, but I saw some stats where Sam Bradford, 5 years in the league, 11,000 yards. Nick Foles, 3 years in the league, 7,000 yards.
Yeah.
Nick Foles is 26, Sam Bradford's 27. What I'm trying to say is, why would the Eagles get rid of Nick Foles when he could have been their future? Sam Bradford hasn't played, he's only played 2 entire seasons.
Well, that wasn't the only move they made. Didn't they get rid of LaShawn McCoy too, right?
Yes, they got rid of LaShawn McCoy, and now we're hearing rumors that there was a possibility that it was because of the coaching staff and LaShawn McCoy not doing well with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly came in and was like a bat out of hell. He changed that whole organization around, started making moves that nobody was really understanding. So as you can see now with Sam Bradford, a lot of people are going to say that Sam Bradford can play in that system, but he's like a boulder in the middle of the offensive line, and he's going to get hit and he's going to crumble.
Okay.
I don't see how it's going to work well for them. So that would be the worst move I've seen. The best move, got to give a shout out to my Jets. The Jets have been making moves that make sense.
Are you going to do the chant on set for us or no?
I'll do it at the end of the show before we go out.
All right. Kenny, what's been the biggest transaction you've seen in the NFL offseason?
Like Mike is saying, Philadelphia made a lot of moves. You see Chip Kelly trying to choose his system over actual proven players. So he got rid of guys that he felt weren't his guys, weren't for his. So he's trying to turn the Philadelphia Eagles into the Philadelphia Ducks, bringing a lot of his former college players in.
Brought in Kiko.
Right, brought in Kiko Alonso, who's an injured player. Brought in a lot of injured players, and he got rid of one running back because of money, quote unquote money, and then gets 2 running backs for more money, which doesn't make sense. And so that was peculiar, but that's what happens when the head coach is also doing the GM.
The GM works. Guys over here, Khalid, what's the biggest transaction so far you've seen?
The biggest team to jump off the page to me are the Colts.
The Colts.
They really made some very serious moves to try and hit that next level, especially the way they embarrassingly got mishandled by the Patriots in that AFC Championship game.
It was a Deflategate, according to
Man, Deflategate or not.
Cheaters.
40-something points to 7, that's terrible. So you go out, you get Andre Johnson, you get Frank Gore, you get Trent Cole on defense. I believe they got Todd Hermans, the Pro Bowl caliber guard from the Eagles. They added one other, I believe, that I'm not too sure, but I like the fact that they went out and they were so aggressive. And another thing that jumped off the page for me is the Patriots. They're betting on the Earl Thomas Seahawks model and keeping McCourty but getting rid of Revis.
Okay.
They feel like if you have that.
Revis going back home to the Jets over
going back home. Shout out to that as well. If they feel like I think they feel like if you have that extremely talented free safety, that deep range safety over the top, you can afford to plug in press man, cover guys, and we'll see how that works. I mean, you can try to be like Earl Thomas, but Earl Thomas is really his own beast.
Okay.
So we'll see how that turns out.
Anthony, what's been the biggest, in your opinion, the biggest
To me,
move
so far, it's actually 2 that I was kind of wrestling with. And the first one is the Dallas loss of Murray.
To the Eagles.
To the Eagles.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a Giants fan. Thank you.
And to me, I just think they took a huge step back, on their heads. Like I think that was
Right.
the wrong move to do, to
Speak-
play hardball. And
Well, speaking of the Cowboys, they just signed Greg Hardy, correct?
Yes.
And they did. And we don't know who is he able to play? Is he going to be suspended? For
nobody
a-
knows
Stupid
yet.
move.
That's,
a stupid move.
stupid
Nobody
move
knows
for the
yet.
Cowboys.
Yes, the reason why is because the league hasn't come down with a punishment yet. It could be 4 to 6 games. He signed an $11 million one-year contract, and now this is now taking them out of the running to get Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson wanted to come home to Dallas. He's not having a good time in Minnesota right now with the suspension he's going through. There was going to be a lot of possibilities for him to go to the Cowboys, and they took themselves out for one player that you don't even know you're going to get a full season out of.
That's not
Ken-
necessarily
Well,
true.
yeah, I was
well,
gonna
okay.
say the same thing.
Well, hold
that
on.
that's-
Let's get to Kenny and Anthony. I'll come back to you.
The contract is not guaranteed, so that basically he's playing game by game. So however long he's suspended, then he misses out on that money.
And then
So
after
if
that, you
he's
get a
suspended
great
half the
player.
season,
Right.
you only get paid for half the season.
Right, that makes sense.
Anthony, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say like it's not a dumb move because after they give him his penalty, you have a really solid player, and then you go on from there.
Right. Now, I know it's a little early, and we don't want to talk Super Bowl already, but just based off the moves that we've seen, on paper, who do you think is kind of a running in the Super Bowl? Is it too early to tell right now? But based off the moves, and a lot of teams are making moves, and we still have the NFL draft coming up. Anyone right now you can say on paper looks like, oh, this team could actually make a run for the Super Bowl.
Any
This
team from the AFC East.
AFC East. And we've seen in all those teams, the Bills,
The Bills picked up LaShawn McCoy,
Right.
just to name one. They picked up Matt Cassell, who
Their
could
new
be-
coach, head
yes,
coach,
Rex
and
Ryan.
Rex
That's
Ryan.
right. Then you got Miami. They picked up
Sue.
Ndamukong Suh.
Right,
You know, so
exactly.
everybody has made moves in that entire. Devin McCourty staying with the Patriots. You know, they're
Right,
all
the defending
making the
champions.
necessary moves.
All right. So anyone from you're saying AFC,
Anybody
AFC
from the
East.
AFC East, yeah.
Kenny?
Well, for me personally, if you look at the history of the Super Bowl for the last few years, it's always who has the quarterback. It's the quarterbacks, the solid quarterbacks. In the AFC East, a lot of these teams made moves, but they still don't got no quarterback.
Right.
And Tom Brady and the Patriots, I feel they kind of went down a step. So for me, I would say coming out the AFC, it would be the Colts would be my favorite because
The
they
Colts.
have Andrew Luck. They've made a lot of moves to improve. They replaced Reggie Wayne with Andre Johnson, like Khaled said. They've made a lot of moves to get better. And on the NFC, I would probably have to say Green Bay or Seattle again, depending on how much money they give Russell Wilson, because that might affect their.
Okay. Guys over here, anyone off of paper, can you say is
I'm
clear to make it to the Super
agreeing
Bowl
with
run?
Kenny. AFC, the Colts. You take a quarterback as good as and as talented as Andrew Luck, and you give him pieces other than old Ahmad Bradshaw and T.Y. Hilton. You know, and as far as when I say pieces, I don't just mean talented guys. I mean veterans, proven veterans that come in and get it done, and not just on offense, either on the defensive side of the ball as well, and on that offensive line, which we all know is their worst attribute on offense.
Okay.
So you know, I feel like they're gonna make a very serious push. As far as the NFC, unless somebody's showing me that they're gonna take the spot from Seattle, then that's it. Like you can see the only reason they didn't win the Super Bowl is because they got in the way of themselves. So it's like
yeah.
unless somebody's showing that they're gonna upseed them, Seattle is a choice for me. Unless my Giants come out of nowhere.
Anthony?
happen. Yeah, well,
on paper right now, you think off the moves and thinking of the draft coming up too?
This actually piggybacks my initial statement about your first question, because I was going to say the second biggest move also was the Seahawks keeping beast mode.
Yeah.
So to me, that was
Yeah.
what they needed to do I see them back in this. I see them actually winning the Super Bowl.
And they
this
went
season.
and added
Yeah.
Jimmy
Jimmy
Graham.
Graham.
Oh yeah,
That's
not
right.
there.
Jimmy
I-
Graham from the
oh,
Saints.
man.
Now here's
That's-
another.
yeah.
Now thanks for that segue. There was another question about Drew Brees getting traded. Was that just a
still
rumor?
But it seemed like
There's
they're
still
getting
rumors that
rid
they're
of-
trying to.
if you're
get
gonna
rid of
play
the whole
house,
team.
might
I
as
mean,
well.
yeah. I mean,
I think his contract is too big
I don't
to
see
move.
why. I don't see why they shouldn't. You take away literally his best option.
Give
And
him
like,
something,
who are you gonna
something.
replace that with? Like, you might as well give him a chance to win somewhere else. I know we were talking about it on the group this past week. I wouldn't mind seeing him, even though I'm not a Jets fan. I wouldn't mind seeing him on the Jets.
On the
you know?
Jets.
Well, they would have to.
Well,
they would
Mike,
have to
thoughts
trade.
on that?
Well, supposedly the rumor is that we would have to trade the 6th pick because they would want a young quarterback. So they would want somebody like a Mariota. Originally, there's been talks for months now with the 6th pick. We were supposed to get Nick Foles as a Jet and trade Mariota to the Eagles. So there's back and forth. The writing is on the wall with the fact that Drew Brees just lost his biggest weapon. for a guard, for a center. You know, with Unger, I'm not taking away from Unger's ability, but that's not a weapon for Drew Brees. So taking that away from him is just showing that they don't want him there anymore. They're ready to move on.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, you know, you gotta see the writing on the wall.
I think he's just a couple years into his new contract, so it might be a lot to move onto a team. But I think they have a better chance of getting Phillip Rivers because Phillip Rivers, he's in the last year of his contract.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to resign with them.
Poor Mike, man.
He was supposed to be.
You suffered enough.
He was supposed to be in New York in the first place.
Yeah, but Mike, if you put him with that defense, Todd Bowles' defense, you don't think that
put him on the defensive line then, but don't put him as my quarterback.
I would take Phillip Rivers over Drew Brees. I know he could play outdoors.
Listen,
I don't know about
with
Drew
the
Brees.
options I have right now, I take Phillip Rivers. Is he my number one choice? Absolutely not. Phillip Rivers is more liable to do a Mari Stoudemire and punch a fire extinguisher.
He's not lying.
All right, to wrap up this segment, anything else we kind of see that may happen before the season starts in August and you figure guys going to training camp? Besides the draft, any other bold moves we see coming out? Guys?
There's going to be a trade in the draft. There's going to be a couple of big trades in the draft. I don't necessarily see Jameis Winston being on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I see a move at the number 1 spot.
All right.
I don't see that. I could see him move at the number 2 spot or something like that.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are looking at Mariota.
Okay.
I'm not going to predict any big moves. I do have a person to watch out for though, Teddy Bridgewater. They just he had a really good rookie season under the radar, and they went out and they added Mike Wallace on top of his already legit stable of receivers in Patterson and the new guy who they found like a diamond in the rough off the Browns. Of course, the Browns always give up talented receivers. I think his name is Nick Johnson, or something to that effect. So even without Peterson, I think they can go in the draft and get one of the stud running backs. It is a deep draft for a running back. So I think it could go either way. You know?
Final thoughts? Any bold predictions to happen?
Not really bold predictions. What I'm actually looking forward to is seeing Jameis Winston on the field. I can't wait to see what he does. I think he's going to be incredible. And I just, to be introverted, I want to see what my Steelers are going to do with this defense.
Well, you always have to plug your team.
Of course I do.
also,
Of course I do.
one
I
last
have to
thing.
see what my Steelers are going to do.
Sleeper in the draft?
Yeah.
Brent Hundley.
Okay.
Quarterback for UCLA. He's going to be one of the biggest sleepers. I wouldn't pick him as high as 6th overall, but high second-round pick. He'll be a great quarterback for years to come. He might have to develop a little more, but I can see him being
Sleeper
a
in
backup.
terms of
Sleeper, yes.
He'll go late in the draft.
Late in the draft, and he will be
like Bryce
a star.
Petty.
Yeah, I
That's,
like Bryce
that's
Petty
another
a lot,
one.
too.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank
Mari
you guys
Cooper to the
for
Giants.
who? Say again?
Mari Cooper to the Giants. Stay number
Smart
9,
enough.
Ken.
Well, thank you guys for definitely joining me here on the Sports Hit List. Please continue to support us on WordPress, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Thanks for watching.
Let's go Jets.
Peace.